Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Hello and welcome. You're watching ThePrint. The drama, the war within the CBI, the India's premier investigating agency, continues to unfold, and if I may say, continues to take bizarre turns by the day. In a new development this morning, CBI Director Mr. Alok Verma has been sent on forced leave. He has, of course, challenged this in the Supreme Court. I have with me a very important voice in this regard. Sir, under what powers has the CBI director now been asked to go on leave? We know he has a fixed tenure of 2 years. So under what powers has the government asked him to leave?
I don't know these administrative rules and so on. But obviously the purpose of removing Alok Verma is quite clear. For two purposes, I think. One is to shield their own favorite officer, this is Asthana. On this there is no doubt because evidence was coming out about Asthana's the way of running various cases. And the second thing is to prevent Mr. Verma from looking into things which are inconvenient to the government. And Verma is known as an independent officer who doesn't buckle under pressure, and obviously that is not suitable to this government. And you must see that it is not just in the CBI that this has happened. Here it has happened because the director did not yield. But if you look at the National Investigation Agency, if you look at various other investigative agencies, Enforcement Directorate, exactly the same drama is playing out behind the curtains. In the Enforcement Directorate there is a war, and different factions are going after different people. And so this shows two things. First, it shows what happens when a government tries to make these institutions its own instruments for political purposes. You know, I want to go after Chidambaram, I want to go after DMK today, not go after DMK tomorrow, and so on, according to my political convenience at that time. So when you prostitute an investigating agency or the police force into a private army, then naturally these consequences follow, because some officers will be yours, some officers will be mine, and so on. And the second thing this shows is a complete disregard for all institutions and norms. After all, that's what they tried to do with the judiciary. Forget the lower judiciary, but the Supreme Court. So it is a pattern of these characters that they do not have any norms, and they do not see that a country like India cannot be run except by institutions. You can't run it by persons. Mr. Modi running after everybody with a stick. How can that how can a continent like India be run that way?
But you know, sir, we know for a fact that the CBI, this is not the first time that CBI is being used by a government for its political convenience. What has gone so horribly wrong this time that we've reached this point?
No, because this government is using all agencies and all institutions in a horrible way. And the fact that murder has been going on since Adam does not mean that it is justifiable today or will not have consequences today. So that is no argument. And I don't think that there has been any time in which the investigative agencies have been used the way they have been used, let us say, in the Sohrabuddin murder case. Just see, almost 62 or 63 witnesses, or maybe even more, have resigned from what they had stated in court under oath. And CBI has not objected. And I read somewhere that this Asthana was associated with that Sohrabuddin investigation case cover-up there also. So, similarly, if you see Vyapam, in Vyapam, over 50 persons who were connected with the case and were crucial witnesses have died in unnatural circumstances. You tell me any other time. You say that yes, CBI was being used by other governments. You tell me another time in which, to this extent, such things were happening. Similarly, the encounters in UP that are taking place now. Again, 50, 60 people have been killed. And it's only when the Supreme Court looked that way that suddenly the encounters have ceased. What's happened?
Correct.
So you can see that there is a pattern to the way the governments are being run these days, and we better wake up. Because if this is going to be the norm, then nobody is safe in the country.
So is this unprecedented that the director of the CBI has been asked to go on leave? Has this happened before? Under what circumstances can this happen?
I don't know. I mean, generally speaking, it would be if there was, moral turpitude, if there was a case, let us say, the director of any institution was taking a bribe and was caught in that. That's not happened this time at all. The director and his staff actually have been doing the right thing in investigating an officer, even when they knew that the officer has the backing of the Prime Minister and so on. So it's to their credit. And secondly, these are not new things about this second man, Mr. Asthana. When he was being forced into the CBI, there was a petition filed in the Supreme Court by Prashant and others. I think by common cause, Prashant argued the matter. Then these facts were placed before the CVC, that here is a man who is being actually investigated by the CBI itself on 6 corruption cases or something like that, and you are appointing him the additional director. And in fact, much more was done. The director retired, new director was not appointed, and Mr. Asthana was made to function as the acting director.
Yeah.
And by the passage of time, it would have been said, oh, well, now he has to become the director. So there was a whole design behind this. And these are the consequences of both of the government's determination to do these things, and on the other side, the failure of the Supreme Court and of the CVC to look into the facts when they were brought to their notice about Mr. Asthana and what the consequences would be if he were taken into the CBI.
So you mentioned the Central Vigilance Commission. We have seen complete silence from the CVC on this matter so far. Is the CVC the body to look at in terms of a solution now, or does the solution have to come from the Supreme Court?
No, I think the CVC is a party to all this. I mean, actually, Mr. Chaudhary was very kind and courteous to us when we went to meet him on this matter of Rafale. But the fact is that when he was appointed, there were many misgivings at that time also about his appointment. So I think he is very much
Mr. Chaudhary.
Mr. Chaudhary. And therefore he is very much a party to all these things that have been happening, and certainly he is not the solution. The solution will have to come from the Supreme Court. It is very unfortunate that for everything we have to run to the Supreme Court. And just see what the consequences would have been if the government had succeeded in its design of suborning the Supreme Court itself. It is the last dike left, and the government was trying to usurp that also. So the country must wake up.
Right. So, such ugly facts have come out about the CBI's internal functioning, perhaps for the first time in the public domain. These bizarre allegations, very serious allegations of bribery. What does it do to the reputation of this institution? Because even in the mind of the common person, CBI is the go-to institution for any
but that's why I think the common perception has been completely wrong, and I've been arguing against it for many years. Anything happens, लोग कहते क्या करना चाहिए? CBI should inquire. CBI क्या खुदा है? You see, वो दूध में धुले हुए क्या है? They are just police officers who have been transferred from the state and into a central agency. That's all. Why do you expect them to behave differently here? Suddenly, just because they are sitting in one building called the CBI headquarters. And therefore, I greatly welcome this development, that the people of India must see what is inside this building. Who are these people? What are they doing? So I have been urging, please watch every little twist and turn in this whole drama and read carefully what is coming out about each of the officers.
Yeah.
See, and when the directors, or when it comes out in the papers that these characters were running an extortion racket. Now that's a source in the CBI saying about CBI officers. Well, that's very important. It can be an extortion racket. It can also be a racket to weaken cases. And therefore, all these Nirav Modis and all these characters escape. That's how they escape. That is how these lookout notices get diluted. Do you think it's just happening for no reason? And do you think that any of this can happen without the protection of ministers and higher-ups? How can it happen? All of us have worked in government.
Yeah.
I can't imagine any subordinate officer working with me, any journalist working with me in the Indian Express who would do such a thing and I would be unaware of it. Okay? Everybody gets to know.
Correct.
बदबू तो फैली जाती है किसी के आदमी की. तो when the government, so I believe that it's not just the officers doing things on their own.
Yeah.
They have protection and they are part of a system, a part of a clique which is controlling the whole operation.
So what does it do to the clique now, and what does it do to the reputation, particularly of Mr. Modi as this strong man who has been so far
I
in
think that
control?
reputation, you see, that is a reputation for which I also fell, I'm sorry to say, and that is completely a misplaced reputation, and he has proven that he just doesn't have administrative capability that we thought he had. He is now running India, trying to run India the way he ran Gujarat, where no institution survived, where the police officers were actually being made to do these very things. These are the officers he has brought here. So this, and all these things, Akbar one day, this fellow, this CBI the next week, and so on, it shows that Mr. Modi has completely lost his grip over the administration. Forget the country. Because India is an ocean, many waves keep coming up and many waves keep subsiding on their own. But as far as Mr. Modi is concerned, he doesn't now seem to have a grip on anything. After all, it is the Prime Minister's office which controls all this. And this is the result of the control.
Are there lessons he can learn out of this?
But
fiasco?
he's impervious to lessons. Otherwise, he would have learnt over 4.5 years, and he had been counselled before he came here that Delhi is different from Ahmedabad. And you will have to conduct yourself in a different
Counselled
way.
by...
Well, I don't want to claim much, but certainly I also told him. And he told me in return कि हाँ मैं बिल्कुल समझता हूँ. जब दुल्हन अपने मैके से अपने पति के घर जाती है, तो उसको अपना चाल, चेहरा, लिबास सब बदलना पड़ता है. मैं ये समझता हूँ. And I took that to mean that he would recognize that Delhi cannot be run the way you run things from Ahmedabad. But I was wrong. So I think his reputation was a creation by him, by media management, by persons like me getting fooled, and therefore there was no substance to that reputation, and that has been shown by event after event after event. For instance, you forget CBI for the moment. What has been happening to the banks? Now, I can tell you for a fact that in 2003, at his asking, I made him a presentation of the crisis that is looming in the banking sector, how it will swell. Mr. Vagul, 1.5 years later, came and sat here and for 1.5 hours explained to me what has already happened. I conveyed that to the Prime Minister. Nothing, अब मैं अभी करता हूँ, मॉस्को से आकर अभी करता हूँ. But absolutely nothing was done. And so you see the result. All that happens is that after a while a meeting is called.
Right.
And then nothing happens. So what's happened in the power sector? They said power sector reforms. Now the Prime Minister has taken action. All they did was to kick the can 2 years down the line. So now the whole power sector is in crisis, and they are the next lot of NPAs. So we now know that the next round, I said at that time, next round will be these infrastructure companies. And just see what has happened to this INLFS.
Yeah.
Government owned, all the directors are of these fellows.
Yeah.
This is going on and nobody cares, nobody knows. So what's this finance ministry doing? What are the banks fellows doing who are directors there? So, and you and I can today say that the next wave of NPAs is going to be these NBFCs. Have they done anything? Do they not know? If you and I sitting here know, they don't know. But all they are doing is managing headlines, that's their way.
Yeah.
So I think that this whole business of his being a great administrator and far-seeing and all this, punk.
So, do you see these issues having political electoral ramifications for this government?
I don't
6
know.
months from now?
I don't know about how the people vote. I mean, if in spite of these things people vote on caste and so on, what can you do about the people?
But do you see that happening? Do you see
I
these issues?
don't know.
Or do you see the opposition at least being able to tap into
I
these
don't
issues?
know. I don't know
and
about
feed
that.
the narrative?
But I don't know about that. But I know one thing. These are the symptoms of a government that is in disarray. Always in the last few months, when you know that now the government is just stumbling from week to week, it is that the government is near its end. They may win electorally, but in terms of its, in terms of anybody having a grip on it, it's just that. आज ये गलती होती है, कल वो गलती होती है. As that Yogi Berra used to say, they keep making the wrong mistakes. They keep making the wrong mistakes.
Right.
And never learn from them.
Do you think this is by far the most embarrassing moment for
No.
Mr.
So
Modi's
everything.
government in the last
No,
4.5
but I mean,
years?
why do we? It seems most embarrassing because it is suddenly overcrowded last week. Last week it was Me Too. Before that it was Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi, Choksi, Lalit Modi. Those were as and should have been as embarrassing. And the fact that the German government offered you the names of persons, Indians having accounts abroad, and you did nothing. And yet you were promising, I'll bring the black money back.
Yeah.
So this seems most embarrassing only because we have forgotten the earlier most embarrassing moments. We should not forget them. After all, if what they have done to the economy should be as much of an embarrassment, it is as much, it imperils India. What they have done to the defense forces. You just see the testimony given by the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army to the Parliamentary Committee on Defense, headed by General Kanduri of the BJP, saying that we have been pleading with this government that please, our bases are being attacked, Uri, Pathankot and so on. So please give us some money to strengthen perimeter defense there. He said nothing has been done. And in the last budget, he says, last budget, they said some 14,000 crores will be given. And in the allocations, not 1 rupee has been given. And General Kanduri's committee, wonderful minister under Mr. Bajpayee of the BJP, they said when we heard the testimony of the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, we were aghast. That's the word they used. Now another senior general has told the parliamentary committee that 80% of our equipment is out of date and only 8% is state of the art. So therefore, it would seem that they are. Shouldn't that be most embarrassing? what they have done to the security of the country.
Right.
So everything is most embarrassing, and their confidence is that people will forget the earlier most embarrassing thing because we are now bringing in a new most embarrassing thing.
Right. So you earlier this month, along with Mr. Prashant Bhushan, met with the CBI director, Mr. Alok Verma, and that seemed to have also made many people in the government upset. Do you think that also has a role to play?
No, but I think I think that is just a part of this government strategy of raising some non-issue to deflect attention from the main issue. The main issue was Rafale.
Yeah.
Now, CBI director, वो क्या खुदा है क्या कि we cannot meet him except through an angel called Khizr. We can meet him through anybody. We are citizens. And I have met, in the same office, I have met an earlier director when I had information about an investigation they were conducting at that time. Similarly, I went to I again sought an appointment with another director when I had more information about another investigation, and I was told that, he's busy, so you can come to his home at such and such a time. So I went to his home. His other officers and colleagues were there. I presented the information. But bhai, kya mushkil hai? See, as I have explained, forget me, forget Prashant Bhushan. We are nobodies, okay? But Mr. Yashwant Sinha, he was to go with us that day. He couldn't because he was on tour.
Okay.
Now, Yashwant Sinha is not a small man. These Modis and all, who are they in front of him? In front of his experience. Do you know that he was the only person in government, not even Advani ji, not even Mr. Brajesh Mishra, not even Mr. Jaswant Singh, not even the Defence Minister, Mr. George Fernandes, was told that there's going to be an atomic test. Yashwant Sinha was told by Atal ji. Because he was the Finance Minister, and Atal ji told him, ये होने वाला है, sanctions होंगी, आप अकेले बैठकर plan तैयार कीजिए. That is the level of the person. Now, if the CBI director, who is after all a civil servant, he meets Yashwant Sinha, what is the problem? And they plant stories, this fellow met politicians. Oh, मैं कब से politician हुआ हूँ? प्रशांत भूषण कब से politician हुआ? In any case, ये CBI director ये ministros से नहीं मिलते क्या? वो politician नहीं है. So, but these characters raise such a side issue so that you don't talk about the main issue. The main issue was the substance of the complaint on Rafale.
And what happens to that complaint now? You said that Mr. Alok Verma is someone who's known to not work under pressure, but yet there has been no movement as far as your complaint is concerned.
Well, as far as we know, I don't know what he has done. He is under an obligation. The CBI, forget him. The CBI is under an obligation.
This complaint is regarding Rafale.
Rafale, yes. The complaint is again about Rafale, and the CBI is under an obligation to register an FIR at the maximum within a week. And I can give you a list of 25 FIRs which we have studied, when complaints were made and the FIR was registered on the same day or the next day or within 1 week. Because there is a Supreme Court judgment in this called Lalita Kumari versus the state of Uttar Pradesh. It's decided by 5 judges, a constitution bench. They have to register it. But they have not done it. And we will certainly be taking the next step in that regard. But the fact of the matter is, these characters are saying, this fellow, the director was, sort of as if he was favoring us. The fact of the matter is that he was not, or at least the CBI did not act in time prescribed by the Supreme Court on the matter.
Right. So my last question now, at least for the time being, Mr. Alok Verma is out of the CBI. He's challenged it in the Supreme Court, but as of now he's out. Mr. Asthana is out as of now. You said the solution can only come from the Supreme Court. What can the Supreme Court do? My final question.
No, I think the Supreme Court should first see why has Verma been asked to go on leave? You see, it can't be that you put up a rogue officer. He starts fighting with the director and then you say now both must go.
Right.
That's not the solution. So they have to first find out, forget Asthana, you have to find out why have you removed the director when his term was 2 years. And if they do not find sufficient grounds, then he must be restored and must continue till his retirement. He must do his job.
Right.
And everybody will be watching I don't know who Mr. Nageshwar Rao is, but everybody will be watching his conduct. We should watch his conduct. See, these are not the representatives of the British government. They are our representatives there. They are civil servants. They are servants of civil society, of us, not of these fellows in government, of any government. So we must assert our right that these characters are to be accountable to us. And we therefore must keep a hawk's eye on their conduct.
Right.
And as far as the Rafale petition is concerned, we will certainly see what the CBI does under this new acting director.
Right. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Shourie. Thank you so much for talking to us. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll constantly be bringing you updates about this war within the CBI. Thanks for watching.